The Letshuoer D02. Let's talk about it. This is a single dynamic driver. It comes in aqua or it comes in this pretty pink version. It costs around $30. It comes with a USB-C cable or 3.5. This is a sample provided to me by Letshuoer. They are really awesome to work with and a great company that's doing great things in this space. So I really appreciate them for sending this out. Let's look at the build quality. For me, the shell's not super comfortable. I like shells that are maybe a little bit more, but I do see the advantage of having a smaller shell like this. It's very good for people with slight ears, maybe those that are starting out. We'll talk more about that later. I really like this pink color. It's kind of a magenta, and I really think this is an awesome set. In fact, I showed this to my wife and she instantly loved it and claimed it for her own. So that doesn't happen very often, where she's actually excited about how an IEM looks, which is the most important thing for her. But for me, I think this is a great looking set and I like the build quality of it. This is the USB-C cable. You can't really tell left and right on it. There's a microphone on this if you so need this to use. It has a nice Y split. I like the look and feel of this on the skin. It's a nice cable. I was able to use this and I did enjoy this cable. Terminated in a USB-C right angle connection, and it has a little bit of Velcro on it. These are the tips that it comes with. It's a nice little selection of tips. These are located in a little hockey puck case that it comes with, and this is all like unpackaging experience as it comes in a brown box that kind of has a little bit of a label on it. This case is nice. This is the one they include in their more expensive models. Nice to include it at $35. So how does this IEM sound? It is a nice sounding IEM. It's one of those few IEMs that I put in my ears that I actually really enjoy the sound with. I find that the upper mids are a little bit shouty, and on sometimes, like some days I'll find it very shouty, other days I don't. And so that's kind of a little bit about me, but sometimes I really like that extra energy in my upper mids and sometimes I don't. So all in all, I do find this to be an overall nice signature with a little bit of upper mids, a nice even kilter bass boost, and just an all-around nice sonic quality to it. I really enjoy this IEM, and I think it's a nice little dynamic driver with a few faults, but it's overall a good signature with good build quality at a very reasonable price. It's not perfect. Let's look a little bit more at graphs and we can kind of see what we're talking about. But overall, I would say that this is as a fantastic looking IEM as it does sound. And I think that's not always something we get at this price point. Oftentimes you have to sacrifice something. With the Letshuoer D02, I don't think you have to. All right, let's look at the Letshuoer D02 graph. And what you'll notice is that kind of depending on where you're normalized, let's normalize this around 500 because that's pretty typical, is that you'll notice you'll get quite a bit of upper mids, but has a nice kind of even level of detail and a nice kind of glidey bass, which is kind of like a neutral sort of a set like the Pure. I didn't plan on this, but let's go and look at the Pure now. If you look at something like the Letshuoer or the Truthier Pure, you'll notice that wow, look how much more upper mids that the D02 has. If that's a problem you had with the Truthier Pure, that's kind of what you're talking about. This region, it looks pretty similar in that regards. And so I think that's kind of something to sort of know. I personally really like the air and detail of this, but I do find this to be a little bit shouty. And again, not on all tracks, not on all genres, but just a little bit above my preference level, which can be kind of concerning. As far as what this reminds me of, I want to show just real quick some of other IEMs in their lineup. Probably my favorite IEM in their lineup is the S15. This has a really nice, a little bit more thicker bass, a little bit less upper mids. That's kind of my take, but it's also very expensive. If you look at something like the D02, I like the D02, and it kind of has a different approach, a little bit more kind of mid-range energy. Like let's normalize at 500 again, but you can kind of tell here again how much more kind of almost shout or extra energy do you get to this 2K region. Sometimes that kind of makes female vocals, it's almost like female vocal poison, what some people kind of refer to this kind of spike as, like just too much energy. Now again, depending on what you like, you might like that more. For me, it's just one of those concerns that some people have and some people state. If you look at something like the Mystic 8, again, the Mystic 8, less upper mids, maybe even less bass, People really like the Mystic 8, and people that that want a little bit more upper mids, and maybe a little bit more bass, the D02 does represent good value, and it's a nice little set for cheap. The Cadenza 4, one of the more underrated sets. This is kind of one of the more better tuned sets I think that they have. It's a little bit more tame, a little bit more dry, but it's a nice set overall. It doesn't really provide a lot of excitement. And that's kind of one of the things about like the Jaytis target, or that JM1 sort of targets, which mine is pretty close to that. But sometimes you get IEMs that don't have a bit of excitement or flair or a lot of that. Well, I do recognize the Cadenza 4 is a really good IEM and better than the D02. Oftentimes the differences is up to taste and preference, and it's really very minor things. At not too much more, you get something like the S08. That's a really nice IEM for a little bit more. That's kind of my flair. There are other IEMs out there like the S12 lineup, but they're not really for me. I do think it's interesting they are doing a new S12 without the extended treble on it, which I think is an exciting possibility for the S12 lineup. So that's kind of talks about that's kind of my little quick comparison about Letshuoer, because I have quite a few of their IEMs graphed, and a lot of them are kind of favored, and they're great. Now, do you really need this IEM? I mean, if it's me, if someone's going to ask me what do I recommend at this price, I recommend the Tianqian Bunny. Is the build quality as good, like that good? It's kind of garbage, I'll be honest. It's very chintzy, very plasticky. It does work for me, but it's not pretty to look at. Like if I was going to gift somebody an IEM, and this is what I want to say about the D02s, I think it would make a fantastic gift, because I do think those colors are both very pretty. Like if I was going to give this to somebody new in the hobby who might have slender ears, this is what I have. Again, my unit's already been confiscated by my wife because she loves it so much. So that's kind of something to kind of consider if you were trying to get maybe, you know, maybe a niece, maybe a wife, maybe someone else in the hobby, or maybe just somebody you think might like this color. It's really an attractive IEM, and it's very well built. And I don't really say that about very many IEMs. Like I can't think of very many IEMs that are even under $100 that are built this well. So really props to kudos that. I mean, really it's kind of built better than a lot of IEMs, even around the $100 point. So it's pretty awesome in that regards. I really like the ruggedness, the colors, the use of metal on this is just really well done. But I mean, sonically, I think these will trade blows. I would say the Benny is going to be a little bit, I mean, it has a little bit less shout, a little bit more warmth, and it's a little bit more in my wheelhouse. It is like half the price, so it kind of depends on where you're going, what your budgets are, but sonically, there's not a ton of difference between them as far as how I'd recommend this to the general population of people. I mean, other sets that are out there, like kind of like the Moondrop Land, you know, you have a little bit less upper mids, but everything else is basically the same. It's a lot like a Land, but it's prettier, but it does have that spike that you have to kind of notice, and I want to be clear about that. That's not going to be for everybody. You know, the Psyche is something that, like, I want to compare this to as a funny thing. The Psyche's kind of a little bit of a dumpster fire. This is Moondrop's new $2,000 IEM. They didn't send this to anybody. Actually, a friend of the channel actually bought this and sent this to me to review, and it's kind of a dumpster fire. It has a pretty logo, but it's not really, it does have a lot of shout, a lot of energy, and you can tell kind of like what's going on here, that it has all this extra energy, and I want to talk about that. Sometimes this extra energy can be fun. You almost want your it's like going outside. You want to go outside to maybe get a little bit of sun, but if you get too much sun, your skin might burn. You might develop other issues or other side effects of being out in the sun too much. But it's kind of a fun presentation to have, and so I think that's something to kind of note, that this does have a little bit more tamed upper mids. It is tactfully well done, but it's just not that exciting in that regard. Other IEMs at this price, I really like the FIO JD10. For some reason, I gave a pretty good review of that, and that's like one of my most watched videos. A lot of people like this IEM. A lot of times people will watch old videos just to kind of verify, well, what does this crazy Jaytis think about stuff? And it's that kind of take. This IEM's like, I don't know, 15 bucks, and people might really like it. It does have a little bit more shout, a little bit less 5 to 6K hiss, which I can be sensitive to. And a little bit more bass, which is nice. So, I mean, there are IEMs out there for cheaper that could be better, but I do think there's a really nice treble quality and a nice feel to the D02. I do find it very tolerable, very listenable, and really quite a lovely little set. There are other sets I want to show you that are a little bit more at this price and just kind of what you're looking at. You know, a lot of people like the Awakened Dawn MS. Again, a little bit more shout. This is a little bit kind of like, you know, high peak, slided off with a little bit less bass. So people that are bass heads are really should stay away from the D02. This is not a bassy set. It's very bass lean. Another set which would be probably a little bit more in my wheelhouse, which you know, the MS, what is it? The MS Dawn, which is a $50 set, might be in my wheelhouse, and depending on how much you want to spend or whatever, they might be really close in price. But for me, like, another set I really like is the Key Fine Clean, which I do think is a little bit better value. Again, on both of these, you notice that little bit of, you know, maybe 3 to 4 decibels of 2K, a little bit of female vocal poison, as some people might call it, and a little bit more bass is something that's just a little bit more in my wheelhouse. But I do feel like the stuff off the graph and what makes this IEM special is really nice. So if you are not sensitive to shout, you don't want a lot of bass, it does represent, I think, a really good value, being only $30, and what comes in what I feel is well packaged and with a USB-C cable option. So there you go. All right, the Letshuoer D02. Let's rank it up. I mean, solid B IEM, which means I think it's really quite listenable. I'm giving it a 1 star. I do think the Tantrum Bunny is just about the same quality, and I think people might like it more. I dinged it pretty hard on that mids, and again, if that mid score doesn't bother you, you know, and you think that might actually be tolerable, I mean, you can tell that would instantly pop up almost to a solid A- if that's kind of what you're thinking about. And so I think the bass is okay. It's not very exciting. It's kind of glidey. It's fine. Its upper mids is kind of like, I would say terrible, but it's not going to work for everybody at all times. And that's something that I would recommend. But I think a lot of new people of the hobby might even enjoy it and find it a really fun colorization, because it's really not that much more. I think the treble is well done on this IEM, and I think it's a nice overall driver that just needs a little bit, maybe an EQ or maybe a little bit dialed down. But I find it an overall nice, balanced IEM that's really nice to listen to. As far as other IEMs go at this price, I mean, right now it's like at the top, but by barely. I think something like the Tantrum Bunny might be better. I mean, I just reviewed the 7 Hertz Ulula Ultra, which I find, if you're a bass head, that's also a fantastic set. You know, the Key Fine Clean, the Dawn, I mean, they're really only a little bit better. But I do feel that like, if you're looking at more like what I personally would more gravitate towards in this budget space, if I were to listen to something in this price range, would probably be the Key Fine Clean or the Awakened Dawn. As far as by the brand, how does it go? I mean, it's fine. It's not the best IEM out there. I mean, for me and how I rank IEMs, I do feel like something like the DX1 will be a little bit better, or the S08 is kind of like my budget go-to from Letshuoer. But there's a lot of good IEMs that Letshuoer does, and this gives you a good kind of introduction to their lineup, and I think this is just a solid, well done IEM at this price all in all. So this is a good IEM. It has a lot of fun qualities and fun characteristics, and has a nice balanced-ish kind of a sound that I think people are like. It has a colorization to sound that I feel is a little bit outside of what I consider neutral, but still enjoyable. I think people are going to like this. I think this is a fun, enjoyable set that's well done. I see people liking it a lot, but I do have a few caveats about it and a few minor quips about the sound. I think it's nice. I think it's built well. I think it looks pretty. I think it's worth giving away to people. But the problem is sometimes in the hobby is that you get a guy like me who typically, when I sit down to listen to an IEM, usually it's a pretty expensive IEM. And so when I get here to try to review these IEMs, it's maybe I'm not the best person to do that. Maybe I'm not always the best person to review an IEM like this. I mean, of course I appreciate that Letshuoer has sent this out to me, but I guess I just wanted to like share that kind of doubt that like, and just how I express and how I feel about it, is that this isn't something I probably would gravitate towards, but I do find it enjoyable and a nice set that I really enjoyed listening to while I reviewed this set. A good set. Maybe not a great set, Maybe not a great set for everybody, but I think this would be a remarkable gift to give people that are interested in the hobby. It's a good gift for people. They want to maybe try something a little bit different, a little bit outside the normal wheelhouse. I think it's a very pleasurable sound, and it's again, it's a little bit outside what I consider neutral, but a great set nonetheless. Check it out if you can. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Go. Go.
Go.
Go on with you.
You're mid, you're mid, you're mid, you're legendary. You're mid. Jaytiss out.